Well, hey, everybody, welcome in to Day by Day. I'm James. I'm with Andrew, and Mike is back.
I'm
Mike,
back.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to be back with you guys.
So our fun little announcement that we have is Mike is going to join us full-time, or at least as full-time as he can be in the spring, because you got some things going on with work and school and coaching. But we're excited to have you on, man. This is going to be great. We had a blast the last time, and I'm looking forward to having you on each week.
I guess my takes weren't bad enough to keep me away, so we'll have to keep trying.
and out of the three of us, only one of us is actually sitting in the state of Nebraska.
That's true.
Becoming a global podcast.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Huskers across the globe. I like it. See how many people we can get on.
Tune in if you want to hear Seahawks, Mariners, Cubs, Bulls. No, kidding.
Mike, who are your pro teams? So you live in Illinois, but you're who do you root for?
So I actually grew up being a massive Brett Favre fan. So I actually moved to the absolute worst. I'm a huge Packers fan, actually.
Okay.
But luckily, kind of where
Chicago.
Yes. Yeah. So luckily, I'm like north, obviously, of Chicago. So you'd actually be a little bit surprised, like how many slowly starts to blend kind of at the border of Wisconsin, like definitely mostly pro Chicago. So big Packers fan. I coach high school baseball, so I'm a huge baseball fan. I like the Brewers. I like going to their games. I wouldn't say I'm like super in the know about them, but enjoy going up to Miller Park. Super fun up there.
Awesome.
Nice.
And Andrew, you're fully into all the Seattle stuff.
Yeah.
Do you root for the Kraken? Is that how do you say Kraken? Kraken? How do you say it?
Yeah, I'm not a hockey watcher at all, but I would like to. No, I've rooted for the Seahawks since since college. Just because I've always liked this part of the country, and I was like, I gotta adopt. Never a Broncos Chiefs guy, even though I do enjoy watching the Chiefs lately. But so I'm Seahawks. And if I'm an NBA guy, so if NBA comes back to Seattle, I will be all in on the newest version of the Sonics or whatever they'll call it. So
I get into the NBA in June when they play the finals, and that's about it. Want to remind everybody, you can find us on characterchronicles.com, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all the places. Please subscribe and give us a like if you think Nebraska can win one of their next 3 games. They play 3 top 20 teams in the next 3 games. Give us a like, subscribe to the show, helps people find us. All right, we're going to get into it. We got a lot to cover this week. We're going to start with Husker basketball. We will probably talk a little bit about the college football playoff. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the game. It was all the way on Monday night, but it feels like I've lived 2 months since Monday night. Yeah. Maybe some transfer portal stuff, and we'll probably be at time at that point. So let's start with basketball. Last night was tough. I thought Nebraska needed to win that game. I called it a can't lose kind of game because of where USC was at in their net. I know they'll get to that quad 2 level at some point if they're not already now with a win over Nebraska. But I'm just curious your guys' reactions to where the season's going. Is the season lost?
I mean, it depends on what you think we can get out of these, this final stretch here. I think they just have over 10, 11, 12 games, something like that left.
Yeah, I think it's 12.
Yeah. Are we do I think we're going to go to the March Madness now? I think it's probably going to be pretty tough. I think odds are against us. Potentially an NIT bid. The tough thing about college basketball is you don't have to be on every week. You can have letdown games, you can lose games and be fine, but they've hit almost like the baseball version of a hitting slump here. You can tell they're not very confident. Iowa, it kind of felt like it started to unravel there a little bit. after that.
Yep.
I honestly, like, going into Purdue, I didn't expect them to compete, but it felt like Iowa, Maryland, and especially last night, like all three of those were very gettable games. And when you're losing and you kind of have those negative thoughts in your head, like it's you seem to find a way, and they have. So
yep.
Yeah, love to hear your guys' thoughts kind of on that.
Yeah, so I'm I'm an optimist usually, but I've been very negative this week since the Maryland game. That was just,
Yep.
I actually didn't watch last night. I had some stuff going on, but James was kind of texting there towards the end, and I was following on ESPN just the quick score updates. But yeah, the Maryland game was.
You don't need to go back to watch it. I'll tell you that.
Right, and don't plan on it. I checked the stats. I mean, Jawan Gary, 27 points is nice, but yeah, they don't seem like a real connected team. You don't know who's gonna. I mean, Bryce has kind of fallen off a little bit in his scoring production, but I don't know. I'm not gonna count them out yet. I want to see these next three. Like, get two of the three, and I think we can be hopeful. But you could easily lose all three, and it's for sure over at that point.
And then you're looking at 8 in a row. So I'm curious what you guys think. Like, if you had to pinpoint one or two reasons why they're at the place they're at, what are those reasons? I mean, Andrew, you just kind of said, like, they don't seem, I don't know the word you use, like they don't really gel well.
Offensively, they don't flow. And James, you tweeted about Casey and the backdoor cuts to the hoop and all that. Like, and when they ran with Rick Mast kind of being a facilitator, or Derek Walker, I think they missed like a Josiah Alec even, who I guess you can argue his comp is Morgan a little bit, but they just flowed a lot better in the last few years. And this feels, I don't know.
I think recently, I don't think I felt this way at the start of the year. And this could be like just who we're playing, and we're playing better teams than we played at the start of the year. But like,
for sure,
I think we've lost individually from each player. They don't understand their role and where they fit into the puzzle, and kind of like what they need to contribute to the offense to make it function. I think, and we talked a little bit about this on Twitter last night, but like from a recruiting standpoint, I think we have like a lot of guys that can shoot the basketball, but not a lot of guys that can create their own shot. And I think we're also having trouble moving the ball around to the point where we're creating open shots. Like, USC last night, it felt like they were athletic and could create those open shots. Whereas, a CG, and like he made, I don't know, like 4 threes or whatever it was, but they were like legit tough shot. Like, we was not getting up what I would consider to be an easy look. You know what I mean? So it just feels like even when we are scoring points, like it's not coming easy. It's because someone has to do something drastic to get the ball in the basket. Right. So it's like, go ahead.
Laborious. I mean, it's just like they are laboring to get a good shot, or somebody has to make a tough shot.
A lot of get stuck, they'll get stuck in the paint or something, have to kick it back out. And
and you made a great point, Mike, on Twitter, is, we don't have a point guard who's a shooter. I got into a conversation with some other people. I think it was Dave. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, Dave Feet, who asked a poll like, hey, who would you like to have back from last year's team if you could? And he had Casey, Josiah Alec, Jamarcus Lawrence, or CJ Wilcher. And I was like, the right answer is Jamarcus Lawrence. Like, I know we want to say it was Casey, but Jamarcus had all the tools, ball handling. I feel like he's a defensive improvement over at Casey, but Jamarcus could create his own shots. Young guy. So it kind of makes me wonder, get into some NIL conversation, like what took him away from Nebraska? What would it take to get somebody like that here? why does a player like that leave when it's like, man, you were picking up great minutes and you were probably going to play a lot this year. But, Andrew, I know you wanted to talk about like Hoiberg and his development. Do guys like a Jamarcus Lawrence not feel like, hey, I'm not getting developed and I go get developed somewhere else? So I have all these questions that come up in the last 4 minutes of a game when you're watching, like, I know we're not going to win this game, but I think if we had a couple other pieces, it would push us over the hump. We were only 5, what was it? 78, 73. We lost by 5. Like, how do you
well, think of those 4,
we're chasing 3, we're chasing 5 when it comes to basketball.
Think of those 4 names you just listed though, and each you can identify a pretty clear role that they had on the team.
Yeah.
And I mean, K-State was just go out and score. CJ was bench minutes, threes.
Yep.
Jamarcus, yes, it's like have that steady score that can create his own shot, and then Alec was facilitate and rebound.
Yep.
And I don't know. I'm wondering. I don't know what NIL looks like for Lawrence went to Rhode Island. Like, is he playing very much there? I don't know.
I think he's averaging like 9 points a game.
Okay.
But
I wonder, did they kind of star in a certain role here and then think because of that stock went up? Can I go be the feature guy somewhere? And then it just doesn't pan out that way. That because you got to think that Rhode Island didn't give him more money than we could have.
No. It's interesting too, like, with Raleigh and Euless right now, like there is, to me, you can kind of see a path for them to be successful in the program. Offensively for Raleigh, like it's tough. I don't really, it's hard to like figure out his identity offensively, but like last night and kind of the last few games, I thought Raleigh has been like our best on-ball defender that we have. Like, felt like point guards cannot get around him. Like his ability to move his feet and get in front of guys, I think is, awesome. I think, Sam Hoiberg's the same way. Like his ability to keep a guy in front of him, to steal the basketball, things like that. Like you can kind of see defensively where those two guys at guard fit in, like Euless getting put in to the starting lineup felt a little desperate to me. I don't know what the right word there is. Like, I don't know if Fred's just kind of looking to freshen it up and try something new. I thought that was a very interesting decision. I don't know where you guys are at with Euless and Raleigh and kind of what they provide, but I like you said, James, I think the correct answer is Jamarcus Lawrence there 10 out of 10 times. Like clearly out of those 4 guys, he wasn't the best basketball player. Like Casey was a bucket machine. But like what they bring to the table for the identity of the offense is exactly what we're missing right now.
So, to your question about the point guard, I was really not high on Euless at the beginning of the year. And then I started to change my tune. Then when he got the start, I was kind of like, okay, well, let's see how this goes. I mean, he gets into the game and he turns the ball over like twice in the first 4 minutes. And I was like, he needs to come out. I think I tweeted out at the first media timeout, he needs to sit down because either he's too sped up or he's just too hyped up. I don't know. So you kind of go back to like last year and people are like, oh, why isn't CJ Wilcher starting? I think Wilcher needed that. I'm coming off the bench. Well, Jamarcus too. I'm coming off the bench. I've been able to see the game. I can slow down and then produce. And to me, it feels like that might be Ulyss's game. And I know he started at Iowa, but last night was not good. I like what he brings in terms of a changeup, but neither of them do much offensively.
He had a strong game against Maryland. I wonder if that's just a little bit of, I don't know,
and that might be that desperation.
It's like, okay, recency, it's like he played well last game. Let's reward him. Let's see how it goes. But yeah, for whatever reason, he
might play well because he came off the bench. I don't know. It's like, It's hard to know. And I know Fred's probably like, man, we've lost 4 games in a row. I got to do something. I mean, at some point it'd be like, I'd rather just have, I know you don't want Bryce playing point guard, but they need to figure out, we haven't even talked about defense yet. they need to figure out how they can generate quality shots every time down the floor and limit turnovers. They're the way they're turning the ball over, lazy passes. It's like I see these passes in, third grade basketball. I mean, no offense to the guys playing, but it's like, how do you lack focus for that, for a period of time where, man, you're not good enough to give up 5 points, 7 points, 9 points off turnovers a half. You're just not good enough to do that. So
and for your best player, Bryce, to have a turnover on the final possession, and then he had one really late in a key moment against Maryland too.
That was weird.
Throwing him out of bounds. Yeah.
Why he passed the ball. Yeah.
I think we're, from a talent standpoint, like, I think we're a solid team. I'm not, we're not a top 15, top 20 team by any means, but like, I think there's enough talent there to be like,
I agree,
a solid team in the Big Ten. But the problem is, like, from a talent like, there's not a ton of margin there to just be like super mistake prone and being able to turn the ball over like they did last night. Like, they're going to have to clean it up to a certain extent, because the margin for error is a lot smaller for Nebraska than it is for Kentucky, or that it is for Kansas, or what I mean? Like, and to me, like, from a turnover standpoint and what we saw last night, like, it almost feels like a team that fumbles the ball in football all the time. Like, I think it's a point of emphasis type of thing rather than it's an ability thing. Like,
have we ever seen that here, Mike?
No clue.
Oh, having nightmares as we speak right now. But like, it's exactly what I'm saying. Like, turnovers under Matt Rule have gotten significantly better, because that's something, we'll take out 2 years ago, but this year they got a lot better. And if you make it a point of emphasis, it will get better. And it feels like a lot of the turnovers lately have been guys just not knowing what they want to do with the basketball when they start dribbling, or poor passes, or whatever it may be, like, just kind of being discombobulated on the floor.
Yep.
Well, James, talk about, as we go over some players quick, you've been talking about this since the Iowa game. Do we have, no, it's clear we don't have the killer on the team. Like, we need Iowa had a guy go off for 30 in the second half against it. Like, you see guys, boy, wouldn't like a Chucky Hepburn be nice to have on this team right now, or just those guys that can take over a game, and they're frustrating because they always happen against us. But yeah, speak on that a little.
I just think I really like Bryce Williams as a basketball player. I think he's a good player. I don't think that he has that killer instinct. A lot of that's personality. It's makeup. It's just who you are. And some people are built like that, and some people aren't. Like, you just know, like, some people, you're just a cold-blooded killer, and other people, you're just like, I'm a good ball player. And Mike, you coach, right? Like, you coach kids. You can tell a kid, be like, I know from the minute you stepped on the field, like, you're here to dominate and crush everybody, and you're going to enjoy it while it's happening. And this kid over here, like, hey, you're a really good player, but like that drive, that's what, like, I coach little kids, little boys and girls volleyball. Like, you can tell, like, you either have that drive or you don't. And again, I like Bryce. He doesn't seem to have that. And I've never had a conversation with the man. I don't know what's going on there, but like, when you watch on the court, again, like you pointed out, that he turned the ball over at the end, like, just take the ball up the floor. And if you have to make a tough shot in somebody's face, you got to do it. So do that.
He's the guy that we want taking that shot at the end.
Yeah.
100%.
I texted Mike right away, and I was like, I'd rather have Sam bringing up the ball and pass to Bryce. Because I don't think Raleigh was on the floor. I don't think Aaron was on the floor. So somebody else other than Bryce, get Bryce a screen. I think we had it 7 seconds maybe. So or maybe 5. There was enough time to bring the ball up. But there are hundreds of thousands of basketball players in this country and around the world who would play college basketball, and maybe even in Nebraska. Yeah. We need to find 2 of them, or maybe just 1 for every 4-year cycle who has that killer instinct. And it drives me nuts that we can't find them, because for so long we found them in football, right?
Yep.
We lost one of them today, Calvin Jones. right? He passed away today. He was one of those guys that just had that, like that drive, that instinct to like, I am going to take it to you. I don't know why we can't find that guy in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Well, here's what we got coming. I mean, this is way too
Sorry
early.
for the rant. Like it's
we got, I mean, so Connor Seaton's got a year left. Sam's got a year left. You got 2 freshmen, Frager and
doesn't Connor have 2 years left?
Huskers.com has him as a junior.
Okay.
Maybe I don't know where we're at with 5th years and all that stuff, but Jeff Grace a year, Gavin Griffiths, that's a weird one. Why isn't he playing? He's got 2 years. Cale Jacobson 2 years, Burt 2 years, Rink Mast obviously next year hopefully. But yeah, not a lot of returning production. they're really gonna have to, and not a lot of athleticism and whatnot there. So I don't know. Yeah, looking at next year, it just kind of, you can imagine some of these guys are going to transfer again. And that's kind of seems like that's been a trend too since Hoiberg's been here. Is who's really stuck around and benefited from being coached under him or developed. So
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, Mike, you have a favorite on the roster who's probably not going to play this year. I think it's Nick Jankowski, right? Because he's a Milwaukee guy.
Yeah. So I follow, once I saw that he was, getting pursued by Nebraska and they were kind of a team of interest for him, I started following him a little bit closer because, moving to this area a few years ago, like obviously Chicago high school basketball is insane, and there's very few cities that compare to that. But Milwaukee actually has some pretty solid like AAU scene high school basketball. So I watched a little bit of his game, a little bit of his tape, and he can shoot it. He's a lefty, actually, lefty shooting guard. So maybe we could get a little Keisei Tominaga magic out of him. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I don't know where Fred's at, like from a job. I hope he's safe. I think he can turn this thing around. Like he has the ability. I'd like to see him go young next year and just try to like build it from the ground. He kind of, from a roster construction standpoint this year, he kind of went, like, it felt like he went all eggs in the basket, and I'm just going to bring in old guys that are experienced. And he brought Mia from Washington, Raleigh from Utah. And
Morgan's old. I mean, Morgan's a senior.
All these guys
State,
are
right?
veteran players outside. Burke is a sophomore, I believe, but it obviously hasn't gone quite as well as I'm sure he'd like. So I'd like to see him go a little bit younger, and maybe try to get 1 or 2 freshmen in the starting lineup. We'll see. I don't know, but I think there's got to be some sort of stability with this program, because we're not going to be able to flip it over every year like a big NIL college basketball program. Like I think there needs to be a little emphasis on development and not just building through the portal.
I agree. I mean, when you see what those 2 guys at Rutgers did to us, it's already been a couple weeks now. Those 2 freshmen. You're like, I get Rutgers, New Jersey, New York, hotbed for recruiting basketball, but again, we can't find one of those guys. 2. I know people on Twitter would tell me like, well, look at our history. We're like, somebody said this, like, we're like Vanderbilt in football. And I'm like, I get that, but basketball is just such a different animal because there's only 5 guys on the floor, right? We just need 1. There's a lot more basketball teams around this country than there are football teams.
Yep.
Tell a kid like, hey, I don't know. I'm not a coach even at a high school level, but like, when you're recruiting a kid, if he's going to start or not, and you don't want a kid to get complacent, but you need to put yourself and your program in position to win. And I agree with you, Mike, like, man, play some young guys. You see some of the best programs around the country, like they have freshmen starting and they're ready to play.
Yeah. And basketball is not a sport quite as much as like football, where the physical development is important too. Yep. Like you don't have to add 80 pounds. You know what I mean? Like they're 18-year-old kids that can come into a Division I program and be the best guy, like almost immediately, so 100% to that standpoint. So we'll see I mean, not to get into next year, but there's still basketball left to be played, but I would like to see them go a little bit younger next year. We'll see.
And Mike,
what do
you said stability too. I just think that's, you gotta build that. And what would 2 or back-to-back tournament berths have done for recruiting stability going forward? Well, now it's kind of like, just feels like we're kind of 2 step forward, 1 step back type thing. So
what do you guys think their record will be from here on out?
let me look at the schedule.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I think they have 12 games. So their next 3 are against Wisconsin in Madison. Then they have a home game against Illinois, and then they're at Oregon. So 3 top 20 teams as of right now. And then,
wouldn't it be Fred to just pull one of those PBA games out of his?
It'd be great.
Out of his pocket and just, you know what I mean? Like no business, like Purdue with Edie. Like I was like, there's no chance they're going to beat them. And of course they did,
I mean, I think 9-3, you feel good about the tournament. I mean, that's just,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's a long shot, but
if they go 9-3, they're in, Andrew.
Yeah.
They've changed everything if they go 9-3, but can this team, we didn't even talk about defense. Their defense wasn't horrible last night, but they struggled when USC was doing the same. Did you note, so Mike, you saw it, USC was running just isolation with Claude. I mean, they'd have 4 guys in one corner together on some plays.
Yep.
And you're like, this is nuts what they're doing. And we couldn't stop it over and over and over.
And then they went to that pick and roll with that forward center, whatever that guy was at the end that just kept
2, 3, 4
down
times.
Oh,
easy
my
bucket.
gosh. And he just could not miss him.
We didn't give up 1 billion points, 78. 78's not great. It's not terrible. But, we're not playing it's not that we're not playing intense enough, but we talked about this before we hit record here. Maybe the toughness, and I know Fred talked about that a couple weeks ago, a couple press conferences ago. We don't take charges, we don't foul hard. Make them feel it when you foul. I know that might sound terrible, but I just think there's some things they can do on defense. Not to mention not doubling every time you get down to the post. I don't know that every post player is so dangerous that you can't take them one-on-one sometimes.
I think 6-6. I'd be pleased at 6-6 to finish. You got 6 home and 6 away.
It gets you in the NIT.
Yeah, or 6-6, and at least we can have a little hope as Husker fans. Like, hey, go win 2 or 3 in the Big Ten tourney. You might be in.
Andrew, can you name the 6 wins?
Yeah, give me 6.
All right, I'll just roll through them.
They're gonna beat Illinois. What you watch, they're gonna beat Illinois at home.
That's what I was gonna say. At home, I think they lose to Wisconsin on the road, lose to Oregon. They're gonna beat Washington.
Are you gonna go? Can we pause? Are you gonna still go to that game?
I haven't bought my tickets yet. I actually had that in my notes, guys. Like, do I go? Here's the thing. It's on a Wednesday night at 7:30. Seattle is probably about an hour and a half trip for me with a ferry ride. And I'm not spending the night because I'm going to take my 11-year-old who has school the next day.
Wait a minute. So you have an hour and a half trip
Yep.
and a ferry ride? That includes the ferry
depending
ride?
On the timing of the ferry, it could be like 2 hours total.
Are you in a covered wagon going over?
No.
Fording the river. Okay.
I'm in a Mazda CX-9. So.
Okay. All right. I think you should go, man.
All right.
Just go.
I was feeling last night. I was just like, is it worth it? And it is. I moved up here and I got to go see the Red, no matter what the record is. So
they'll beat Washington. They'll beat Illinois. Give us 4 more.
Washington, Illinois. Okay. You got 2 left with Ohio State. Split those. And we do pretty well on Ohio State. And then I'd say you got Maryland and Iowa again, who you've already played closely. So let's split those and get one of those back.
I could actually see them beating Iowa on Senior Day.
Oh yeah,
at home. I don't think Iowa was actually very good.
No, I mean they had a guy go off for 30 points and a half. So
I just hate. I'll be honest. I hate the way we match up with Iowa. Like the way they shoot the three. That's like exactly what we don't defend well. So
I get it.
Yeah, I mean, could we beat them on a cold shooting day? Of course we could. So never know.
So let's say you get Illinois, get Washington, you get one of the two Ohio State games, you get Iowa at the end. We got to get Maryland back, I guess, and then split like a Northwestern Penn State type thing. Those are both on the road back to back.
I mean, here's why I think they won't beat Penn State on the road. When is that game? Are you looking at the schedule?
Yeah, it's it's right after the Northwestern road game. It's Wednesday night, February 19th.
That's why. What time?
5:30 Central.
Yeah, no one is going to be there.
Yeah.
Penn State, no one cares. Penn State's not going to make the tournament. So those kind of sleepy games on the road, I just think, man, we talk all the time about, we love playing at home. We have so much intensity with the crowd. So the team has to figure out how do you bottle that up in yourselves when you go play Penn State? Because this is a team, as you point out, Mike, they have enough talent. You should be able to beat Penn State on the road at 6:30 Eastern on a sleepy Wednesday night. People are not even off from work, or they haven't even eaten dinner yet. They're not coming to the game. But those are the kind of games I worry about. Where I think last year you could steal a couple, and they did. They did win a couple road conference games last year. I'm just not confident anymore. I'm not confident anymore.
They've got Eli Rice too. They got some inside info.
Yeah, I remembered Eli Rice today as I was looking at last year's schedule. Okay, so you think 6-6?
I mean, at this point, as a fan, I'd be happy with that because it doesn't feel like we're going to get to that. So
I would for sure be happy with. Yeah, you can split the rest. That would be fantastic.
Yeah,
winning record. You get into the Big Ten tournament, give yourself a chance. So
yeah.
Okay, let's move on from basketball. I want to hear your thoughts on the college football playoff title game. I thought it was a vastly entertaining game for the last 15 minutes. I thought the first 45 minutes were pretty terrible. Obviously Notre Dame played horribly until the fourth quarter. But Mike, I know you were high on Notre Dame, thought they could win it all. Curious what you thought of the game.
Yeah. I mean, Notre Dame, obviously, from like a talent standpoint, is, a top 15 team in the country. But my goodness, Ohio State, like the guys that they have, Jeremiah Smith he would probably be the first draft pick if he was eligible this year. Like what they have on that roster, Caleb Downs is going to be a first round pick. So many talented guys. Like, sometimes we talk so much about coaching, and obviously coaching matters for college football, but the most important thing in order to build a championship contender is just to have the guys to do it, have the horses in the stable. So, I mean, Ohio State, like from a year standpoint, like felt like they struggled offensively with their identity. Sometimes they tried to be like a power run team, or, especially in that Michigan game, it felt like they were trying to just bully Michigan, and that's why they lost. But once they kind of just got back to their roots in the playoffs, which is just to spread the ball around and throw it to a generational wide receiver, it's incredible. So, and here's the thing, like, I have a couple buddies that are super big Notre Dame fans. It's like, that is, to me, like from my perspective, not being an Irish fan, like, I think that's a fantastic season. Like, I'd be super happy. It sucks you lose the national championship game, but from a program building standpoint, like the things that Marcus Freeman can do now, like he's like won the country over, I feel like, from a college football standpoint. Like, everyone's talking about the guy. He won coach of the year. So their ability to bring in recruits from that and just kind of have that public attention, I think is going to pay dividends for them.
100%. I mean, and they came back in the game. They didn't give up. No shame. They won 14 games this year. Think about that.
Yeah.
Yep. Stubbed their toe. I mean, it could have been undefeated. They stubbed their toe on a team that you really shouldn't lose to. But
and the way that oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your thought, Mike.
Like from that game standpoint, like Riley Leonard is obviously limited with his arm, but the way that guy battles, like, you know, he's not going to be an NFL quarterback. Like he might make a roster, but he's not going to start type of thing. And the way that guy battles, like absolutely loved watching him play college football. You know, like I think he had 9 carries on that first drive where they just like marched it 3 yards down the field. I don't know how many 4th downs they had that first drive. He's just like, you know, I remember he got up in the end zone and looked like he was ready to be taken out on a stretcher. Like that guy has guts, man.
Yep. I thought watching the game, you know, to me, it felt like that was the only way Notre Dame was going to move the ball. You know, whatever happened in the 4th quarter, maybe Ohio State got a little complacent. You know, I don't know. He started hitting some passes. Great House, their receiver number 1. I mean, he just took over in the 4th quarter and he was open every single time. And so props to him. He had a great game. But yeah, like he reminded me a lot of kind of like a Scott Frost as a player, where it's like, yeah, he's not going to beat you with his arm, but he's smart and he never gave up, and man, could he run the ball. And so it was fun to see him play. I was rooting for Notre Dame. And I wish they would have won. I actually don't have anything against like Ryan Day. People like hate Ryan Day. And I'm like, I don't have anything against the guy. I'm actually happy that he won. And I hope he retires or steps down and just goes and enjoys his life, because it seems miserable to be the head coach at Ohio State.
I enjoy when he yells at who did he yell? Who did he yell at? I just lost his name.
A player?
I can't. No, Lou Holtz.
When
he was yelling at Lou Holtz after the game. I just want to hear that every time that he wins a game. Just yell at Lou Holtz on national television.
Andrew, what was your thoughts on the game?
I felt I was pulling for Notre Dame too, but I kind of told my son he's always wanting to know, you know, who's better, who you going for.
Yep.
So I'm gonna go for Notre Dame, but I'm not gonna be sad if it's Ohio State. I was feeling the Big Ten fraternity there. Not to mention, I think we get a little money for them winning. So
we do.
But yeah, it was good to see Ryan Day get it. Yeah, there really isn't anything. I mean, you just have to kind of take your hat off to them, because you look at the slate they had to run through to get to that game and to get to the title. You know, it's impressive. Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, Notre Dame. Like, yeah, I think Will Howard. I'd say.
But were they the best team, Andrew? Were they the most deserving?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw me tweet. I was tweeting out cynical stuff too during that. I'm like, did the committee screw this up? Like, when it was a blowout, like, should Notre Dame even been in it? It's crazy, but it was fun.
What Ohio State, what they had to go through to win that game, or to get to that game, was pretty impressive. I mean, they turned it on. Like this was not the same team that played Nebraska. Right, Nebraska actually should have won that game. We got stuffed at the 1 yard line 4 times. It would have, we should have won that game. I think Ohio State should write Nebraska a thank you letter, because if Nebraska wins that game, Ohio State's probably not in the playoff, assuming they lose to Michigan. Right, they're not going to put in a 9-3 Ohio State team that lost to Michigan and Nebraska, which is funny to say. But they turned it on. I mean, that Michigan game, they looked so pathetic, and then they just flipped a switch. That's what I
was going to say to you. I think like they're lucky to beat Nebraska, but I think they also were lucky to lose to Michigan, to be honest with you. I think
changed their season.
I think they looked in the mirror and changed who they were, and I think that's why. Ultimately, I think that's why they won it. So.
Maybe it was the flag planting thing that did it.
Probably was. That was it. It was that moment when Ryan Day looked at everybody and said, "What happened?"
During that game, they mentioned the corner from Ohio State that commits all the penalties. Like he's the same guy that held Banks like twice in our game, that Ignowosin or whatever. He was the most penalized DB, I think, in the country, like 15 on the season or something. And I think he had 2 in this game. Like, it's interesting that
pretty incredible.
Like Ohio State, like you don't have somebody else to put out there that's not going to hold receivers.
Remind me though, in our game, did those flags get thrown or not? Like I'm not being snarky. I legit just don't remember.
No, I maybe he got called once, but there was at least 2 or 3 others where we were crying for it.
That's what I thought.
It was a very much let him play type of game. It felt like.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I kind of chuckled when they said he's the most penalized cornerback in the nation. I was like, oh wow, okay.
But you see it, like that's his way of covering. Is like guys get by him, he just has to wrap them up and
just grabs them.
Yeah.
Gosh. Well, too early to look at next year. This year just ended, but if you guys had to say, hey, who's going to be the preseason number 1 team or the favorite, to win the playoff next year, who's at the top of your list? Ohio State's going to have a different quarterback. So they're, to your point, Jeremiah Smith is still on that team.
He's still there.
Someone's going to throw to him. I mean, whether it's a transfer or young guy, but sorry, Mike.
I think their plan is Julian Sane. I think from what I've seen, some people think he's like going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country next year. My money would be on Texas, as much as that pains me to say. Like I've seen enough of Arch Manning to like believe in him, and I'm going to be honest. I think Sarkisian was a little hogtied this year, but I think he probably wanted to put Manning in. Like once Quinn Ewers like had his collarbone issue, I think it was like he just never looked the same throwing wise. Yeah. I think Arch Manning could like unlock that offense, and he brings like a running element to it as well.
Yep.
They kind of brought him in a little bit in the red zone this year and brought him in like short yardage situations, and he can throw it too. So, I think Texas is going to be number 1. I think they're going to be the betting favorite to win it. So I think Texas is going to be pretty darn good.
Good pick. I agree.
I give it to, number 1. Yeah. Texas. I mean, you could argue Notre Dame, not sure what they'll do at QB, but what are they going to do on, like, are they going to replicate the Leonard system, or are they going to pass it more? I don't know. They get a little more potent on offense, and they're looking like a pretty formidable team too. So
I agree. Texas, Ohio State, probably my 1-2. Drew Allers coming back at Penn State, right? I'd really be interested to see what they do, how they complement him. I mean, I have no worries about Penn State's defense, but
did you speaking of, sorry to interrupt, did you see the Penn State rumor mill today?
No,
that they're trying to get Jim Knowles away from Ohio State. That's because
you can't beat him, buy him.
Right, because Tom Allen went over to Clemson to be the DC there. So, Penn State has that open DC spot. So that would be something if that happened.
Wow.
Yeah,
that would be something.
I don't know.
James Franklin.
I don't know about Knowles, but who we haven't mentioned in this whole conversation? Any SEC schools. So
no, we haven't.
We're doing our job there.
We're doing our job. Yeah. And by the way, thoughts and prayers for the SEC schools. They're dealing with a lot of snow right now. I know it's hard. I know that Home Depot doesn't sell shovels down there and snow blowers, but our thoughts and prayers are with you guys. So hang tight. That 8 inches will melt pretty fast.
Hey, I'm an idiot. Texas is in the SEC this year.
That's right.
I feel like it. But
we are idiots. I still think they're in the Big 12. Thanks. I just can't get in my head that they're in the SEC.
Old habits die hard.
But you know what? Gosh. It's Texas, and I don't really hate them as much as like a regular SEC team yet. So I'm sure we'll get there. But
yeah, I still hate Texas, but I like Steve Sarkisian as a coach. I know there's been personal stuff, but I like the offense they run. I don't think, I don't find him. He's not like a Mac Brown kind of character, right? Like I couldn't ever root for Texas because of Mac Brown.
Yeah.
Sarkisian's not in the same category for me as Mac. Right. So, all right. One other thing I want to throw out there, because it's January and our next episode, maybe we'll get to it at the end of the month. Maybe we'll be in February, but there was this proposal that the transfer portal window would be in January. I'm sure you guys have seen that. I don't know if some coaches have proposed it. I haven't read a lot about it, but I know that's a proposal that they want to make the one transfer window in January. I think 10th, 12th. I can't remember the exact days. Regardless of the details, my question is January the right time for that one portal entry window?
I like it after all the bowl. I mean, I think it was crazy with all the roster management and transfers and bowl prep and play. Like this just felt kind of chaotic during this time. And I'd hate to be a coach with maybe a job on the line, or, and you're trying to kind of have multiple hats on, trying to keep your own team, trying to dip into the portal for other guys. Like, I think let them focus on finishing out the season strong would be nice. As a fan, it'd be nice to have your full team essentially when you're going into bowl season.
Agree.
I think if the coaches want it, then I think it probably makes the most sense. Like they know more about what they're doing than anybody than we do. You know what I mean? So, the current structure, I think we talked about this a little bit last time. Like there was guys on these playoff rosters that were like, they told their, I think was Devin Brown for Ohio State. Was he at the national championship game? And now he's the Cal quarterback. It's like some of these guys, it just was a very messed up situation. I felt like
the Penn State backup, right?
Drew
Allar could have went down in the playoff. And then this guy's like, I guess I can't play because I'm in the portal.
Yeah. I tell you what, like, I think if the coaches are on board with it, then I'm on board with it. Who I don't want to make the decisions are the NCAA leaders, or, these people that are not boots on the ground every day, that don't know what's going on and don't know what these college athletes and these coaches are experiencing. Like, I want it to come from the people who are living it out every single day. So if it makes sense to them, like, that's good for me. And I mean, like, without thinking super critically about it, I think it makes sense. Like, let the season finish and then start the off-season acquisitions. I mean, in the simplistic form, I think that makes the most sense.
Makes me wonder if they're going to move up the postseason so there's not so long of a gap. I could see that happening, mostly because as long as football is still tied to schools, semesters start, guys have to get enrolled, and I know that they can backfill all that, and I get that. And there's a window there where if you come in and transfer a day late, whatever. But it just makes me wonder if they wouldn't move the postseason up a little bit to really wrap up by. I mean, I would prefer the national championship game not to be on January 20th, right? Like, I'd love it to be closer to January 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, maybe the 10th. But man, when you start to get to late January, that's pretty late. And so move it up a little bit. The FCS figures out how to do it, and they have more teams in their playoff. I would like that better. If this is going to be that main window, then let's move the season up, or not the season, but the postseason, get it over with, open the window, and then let the players do their thing.
Hey, why not like first week of October, and then you can play immediately. So you just build up your roster for a final run.
It's like a MLB trade deadline.
Imagine how crazy that'd be. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That would be crazy.
We need somebody we need QB for a playoff run, so they're poaching.
I mean, my other thought was that the other option for a window would be at the end of spring, because guys could finish a semester at a school, get their credits, transfer over the summer, get there for the summer. I understand wanting to transfer in January so that you get that whole springtime to be on the team. But like you said, Mike, I mean, if this is what coaches want, this is why the players also, I think, need a players union, right? They need to be able to have representation and say, no, what's best for us is now let's hash it out. Yeah. I don't know if that's ever going to come, but to me, players need some kind of voice too. And I'm sure that they do through the coaches. I'm sure coaches are listening to their players. The best coaches listen to their players, but until players have a unified representative, a unified voice spoken through, a representative, it's like, we're not really going to know what's good for everybody.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately too, like, as this conversation, develops with changing the windows, like, the unfortunate truth is, like, money talks here too. And, the big dog, which is the NFL, I think is going to ultimately get to tell college football when they, as much as the NCAA thinks they're in control. I would think from a viewership standpoint, pushing it earlier to, like, separate from the NFL playoffs would make the most sense. Maybe that's not smart, but like week 17 and 18 to me in the NFL, you have so many games that don't have any playoff implications and things like that. Like, to me, that's when, I know that's way earlier, but like, that's when college should kind of be like, hey, here's our final product type of thing. I know someone mentioned like having the semifinal games on New Year's Day, things like, instead of, I think that's when like the quarterfinals were. So maybe pushing it up a week, but if they could figure out a way to push it up maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and get like those opening round games sometime around like week 17 or 18 of the NFL, just to kind of be like the big show for those few weeks, I think would be pretty cool.
That would be awesome. I would love that. Yeah. Even teams that are in the playoffs, week 17, 18, it's like, you're not, for the NFL, it's like, yeah, these games don't matter. And it would be nice to fill that with college football. Yeah. But I'm all about college football. So I love that. I get money talks, but seems like a better plan to me. And also, please, NCAA, can we please play the championship game on Saturday?
100%.
Let's play it on a Saturday. Don't play it on a Monday night. Thankfully, Lincoln Public Schools had a snow day, quote unquote. So it was a cold day. It was too cold for the kids to go, buses and all that. And so they canceled class on Tuesday. So kids could stay up late and watch the game. But man, I always think like back to like watching games with my dad. It was like, I would stay up late, but it was because it was a weekend. And I guarantee you Monday night, it's like, yeah, you got to go to bed, man. Like, you got school tomorrow. The way that you spread the love and joy for the game is, man, you need to get the next generations involved. So put it on a time when kids can watch, and I will die on that hill. Yeah. And I will die on that hill.
Not every year, but yeah, this one did feel like there was really a lack of buzz going into it. And maybe 100%. It was inauguration day, MLK day, whatever, but
so much going on that day.
Yeah. It was weird. So.
All right. Well, let's put a wrap on this episode. This has been good. Mike, so good to have you on, man.
Appreciate it, guys.
I'm looking forward to the three of us talking some shop each week. So
yeah, I miss football season already, though. I'll be honest.
How many days? We should have a countdown.
It's like 240 some. I don't know. 280.
Too many.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. You guys, I hope you guys have a great week, great weekend. Love talking some Husker sports with you. All right. As always, go Big Red. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.